On February 6, 1932, the Senate Hall of Calcutta University was packed for its annual convocation. The guest of honor addressing the graduates was the British Governor of Bengal, Sir Stanley Jackson. 3 minutes into his speech, 21-year-old Bina stepped into the aisle, pulled a 5-chambered Belgian revolver from beneath her gown, and fired 5 times in rapid succession. Jackson managed to duck the rounds before the university's vice-chancellor lunged forward and disarmed her. The colonial authorities expected to uncover a hardened militant. Instead, the girl pinned to the floor was a top-tier English honor student who had arrived that afternoon to receive her degree. Placed before a special tribunal, the young woman refused to plead for mercy. She also refused to name a single accomplice who had helped her secure the weapon. Instead, she produced a 5-page typed statement and read it aloud to the court. The British administration found her words so incendiary that they immediately banned the document from public circulation. Those censored pages reveal a startlingly clear political philosophy. To understand how a dedicated scholar arrived at the conclusion that she had to assassinate a head of state, we have to look at what the British were trying so desperately to erase. Bina grew up in Krishnagar, raised in a progressive household steeped in the Brahmo tradition. Her father, Beni Madhab Das, was an erudite teacher who mentored future independence leaders, while her mother ran a local women's hostel. Her resistance started early. During a school rehearsal to welcome the British Viceroy's wife, Bina was instructed to throw flowers at the dignitary's feet. She refused, walking out of the hall in open defiance of her English principal. Later, during a crucial matriculation exam, she was asked to write about her favorite novel. She chose Pather Dabi, a banned book about revolutionaries. She knew it would tank her grades. She later called The Lost Marks her first offering to her country. By the time she reached Bethune College, individual protest had become organized action. When the British-led Simon Commission arrived in India to dictate constitutional reforms without Indian representation, Bina and her classmates led the massive student boycotts, staring down threats of expulsion from the college administration. As she would later write in her confession, taking up arms was a great violence on her own nature, but her strict moral education made it impossible to quietly accept a system built on subjugation. She operated through the Chhatri Sangha, a semi-revolutionary society combining academic study with rigorous physical combat training. This hidden network functioned as a training ground for militants, while the Punya Ashram hostel became a covert warehouse for smuggled weapons and explosives. When the decision was made to target Governor Jackson, the network mobilized. A revolutionary contact secured a 5-chambered Belgian revolver for 280 rupees, delivering it to Bina in the college library, where she practiced the mechanics of the firearm. On the day of the convocation, Bina concealed the weapon beneath her graduation gown. She sat through the governor's address, waiting for the right moment to move toward the stage. Her actions established that the struggle for independence had reached the university halls. Young Indian women were no longer passive observers of the Raj. They were trained, armed, and embedded in the very institutions the British used to govern Bengal. The British sentenced the 21-year-old to 9 years of rigorous imprisonment, moving her between notorious facilities like Midnapore, Alertor, and the Hijli detention camp. Bina immediately adapted her tactics to the prison environment. She organized hunger strikes against the jailers, and to prepare for future interrogations, she tested her own physical limits by holding her fingers over open flames and plunging her feet into ant nests. She used her incarceration to advance the cause. Reunited with her sister in the Hijli camp, she tutored illiterate inmates and organized study groups, turning the prison population into a cohesive political unit. Captivity failed to stop her work. She treated the prison as a new theater of resistance, continuing to organize and educate even when restricted by stone walls and armed guards. Released in early 1939, she went straight back to work. When the Quit India movement erupted in 1942, Bina was on the front lines again, leading rallies that resulted in another 3 years of imprisonment. Her service continued through the most turbulent years of the transition to independence. She worked directly alongside Mahatma Gandhi in the relief camps of Noakhali following communal riots, and later served as an elected member of the West Bengal Legislative Assembly. Despite her standing, Her final years were defined by a slide into obscurity. She declined the government's freedom fighter pension, stating that her service was a duty, not a transaction. By the 1980s, she had withdrawn to Rishikesh, where she died in 1986 in absolute poverty. Her body was not identified for several days. Bina Das took up a revolver because she believed a person who was politically enslaved could never truly be free. Her banned statement and silent end remain a monument to a generation of women who sacrificed their youth and their safety to birth a nation, then stepped into the shadows without asking for a reward.